And today we're out taking a look at, kind of that end of season irrigation decision. And when we go through it and take a look at our crops, we can really, at this point in the season, start making those decisions. But what we're finding out there is it's really, there's a lot of variability in growth stages, and there's still some irrigation left to do based on how high our temperatures have been, how high our wind has been, how sunny it is. Well, we've got some really high ET rates out there. As you drive around, you are noticing a few soybean fields start to yellow up. And when you see that yellowing, you kind of start to think, hey, we'd be done with irrigation. But in reality, when you see the first few yellow leaves, the University of Nebraska puts about 2 inches of water use out yet on those beans. And we really want to make sure that we're not shorting those soybeans of water at the end, because you can really cost a lot of seed size. We had a similar setup in 2013 with high temps, high ET at the end of the season, and shorting our beans a couple of inches of water cost us in the range of 5 bushels per acre that year. What we're seeing a lot of right now on our group 2 to 2.5 beans is starting to see some yellowing of the leaves. These soybeans have about 2 to 3 inches of water use left to go. We don't have a lot of yellow leaves, but we also don't have any pods that have reached their mature color. We just basically are at full seed on these soybeans. Some of the other soybeans out there, you can find, that one pod on there that's really starting to take on that mature color. Basically, most of the leaves on the plants are gone. So we're getting very close to maturity. We're in the R7 growth stage once we get that pod at that mature color. And they put a water use there at about 0 inches. I'd say it's using a little bit, but if you've got a lot of that out there, you can really terminate irrigation. The one thing I do want you to look at, though, is a lot of times out in the field, you're going to have kind of a mix, depending on some different growing situations or different agronomic things that went on in the field. You might have some that are really green yet. You might have some that are yellowing. And if things are a little dry in a spot, you might have some that are at the mature pod color. But make sure we're keeping adequate water for all the soybean plant growth stages that are out there in your field. The other thing we're looking at is, of course, corn. I started with soybeans because we're getting very close on soybeans. Most fields have in the range of 2 inches to go. But on corn, it really depends on your relative maturity and what you find when you go out there and take a look at the growth stages. You don't want to short those plants. You don't want to kill them early, because we do have a lot of yield that's still up in the air on the corn. The way I look at it is, you think about, if you look up the data on getting a hard freeze at half milk line on corn, not something we usually worry about, but that costs you about 12% of your yield. So if your corn's at half milk line, you've still got better than 10% of your yield to go to be put on that ear, basically. If the corn was to die today, you'd be out a lot of it. So we want to make sure we keep adequate water there. On our 97-day corn, we went and took a look at it. We're at about half milk line there. That indicates we've got about 1.5 to 2 inches of water use to go on that corn. So you want to go out there, take a look at your soil moisture, and you can kind of add rainfall into there, but make sure you've got adequate moisture to supply that 2 inches of water to that corn to finish it out. Again, they're still in the range of 10% of your yield to go onto that corn. When we go to the 105, we're at about 1/3 milk line, so you're probably looking at 3 to 3.5 inches of moisture use to go on that corn. That's something to be making plans around, getting that irrigation on. And then as you move into those longer maturities that are more common here, the 110 and the 115, you're basically at 1/4 milk line to maybe even a little less than that on the 115. So we've got in the range of 4 inches to maybe 5 inches on some of the longer season products to go in terms of water use. I know it really feels like the corn's been moving along. We're getting to the end of the growing season. When can I start thinking about turning off water? But for that 115-day corn, they're still in the range of 4 to 5 inches of water use to go. So we want to make sure we go out there, look at how much water's in the soil, whether that's using some soil moisture equipment, the hand feel method. Make sure you're not shorting it, and make sure that we can account for the rainfall that we get, and that we apply adequate irrigation So when we add up the rainfall, the soil moisture, and the irrigation, we get to that 5 inches, just to make sure we finish it out with limited yield loss, or as limited yield loss as we can. But those are some things to think about. Go out there, take a look at your corn, the growth stage, and what your soil moisture is. That'll help you calculate how much water you need to go. Same thing on soybeans, but I want to reiterate again, don't short those crops at the end of the season. You've invested a lot into them up to this point. Hopefully you've avoided the hail and the wind, and you've got a good looking field of corn. Let's make sure that we finish it out to the end. I look forward to looking at our yield results here this year and bringing you more agronomic information here next week.
Thanks for watching this video from the Gothenburg Water Utilization Learning Center. For more information, please call 308-537-4500.